All right. So this week, the 24th to the 30th of August, is a very special week in astrology. And that's because on Tuesday evening, Wednesday day, we will have Ganesh Chaturthi. And this is a day where we celebrate the birth of Ganesh, the remover of obstacles, the one who also teaches us through the obstacles that come into our life, and the giver of wisdom. And why this is important in astrology is that Ganesh Chaturthi happens every lunar fortnight, 4 days after the new or the full moon. And it's said that the fourth day of the lunar fortnight is actually the hardest day, and that's why Ganesh rules that day. He is there as a reminder that no matter how hard things get, no matter how much it might look like you're in a standstill or you're up against a really difficult obstacle, the grace from the divine is always with us, and that grace lives within us, right? It's not some external being, but it also shows up in the world around us. And so from Wednesday, we'll be in a 10-day festival of Ganesh, really invoking him, calling for his help. And the alignment with this is incredible because at the end of his 10-day sadhana, that will be the 6th of September. On the 7th, we will have the first of the eclipses. It will be a lunar eclipse. And why that's important as well is that Ganesh is inextricably linked to the South Node, which represents our past life karma, our soul gifts, and also our spiritual liberation. And that South Node will be really active on the 7th with that lunar eclipse. So if you feel the call to want to work with Ganesh, you can definitely just do that yourself. Or if you want to know what mantra to use, what that sadhana should look like, join me and Siddhi Shakti, who's the mantra teacher, on Tuesday evening, Eastern Standard Time in Australia, to learn the mantra, to learn how to invoke Ganesh. I'll put details below. There will be a replay available as a heads up. Now, the other thing I want to mention about this week, so yes, we've got Ganesh. The sun is going to spend its final week in Maga. And I spoke about Maga last week. Maga is all about death, transformation, the shifting of forms. Even like its gift is for the soul to leave the body. And that doesn't necessarily mean like a physical death, though that might have been what's been showing up for you last week and even this coming week. Like, particularly if you have an ancestor who is in a transitional phase in life, they're in between worlds. This can be a time where the energy is open for them to pass. That said, it's also about a metaphorical death, a change and a shedding of identity. It's really about our that identity being like the ancestral vasanas, the karmic seeds that live within us from our ancestry, and in particular, the trauma our ancestors experienced, and that's up to 7 generations back, that don't serve right now at the level of consciousness that you're at, that even work in a way which is kind of harmful, internally harmful. And this theme of ancestry, yes, it's really big while the sun is in Maga, um, where it will be for the rest of the week. But it's also going to be really big during eclipse season, because eclipse season from the 7th of September is known as the darkest fortnight of the year. It is called Pitru Paksha, which means it's ancestors fortnight. So it's actually going to be during eclipse season. We will be working with our ancestry, and you'll notice that a lot of the repeated patterns, particularly in relationships, which is where a lot of that eclipse energy is working, is showing you where an ancestral pattern that's been manifesting in marriage, partnership, business contracts just isn't of service anymore. I'll quickly mention as well, I will have a workshop for both the eclipses to work with them if you want to see where they're showing up in your chart, how to work with them, how to work with Pitru Paksha. I will have details on that. Mm, I'll put them down below as soon as that workshop is live, but it will probably be the middle of this coming week. That all said, the moon, this week is waxing. We're in a bright fortnight, which means the mind is growing in its enlightenment, is seeing things it couldn't see last week. It can feel a little bit more alert, a little bit more with it, particularly if you were struggling with what's been happening the last fortnight. Um, and this is really beautiful because there's a lot of energy. So I spoke about Ganesh at the beginning. I spoke about the South Node, which is called K2 in Vedic astrology at the beginning as well. And why this is really important is the moon is going to be waxing, which is part of the reason why we celebrate Ganesha's birthday in this particular fortnight. And on top of that, the moon is going to be running past the South Node, right around the middle of the week. So just pay attention. So, yes, there's this ancestral energy at play, but there's also this past life energy at play, like uncanny experiences with people, connections you have with people where you just know, like, this isn't my first time conversing with you, being with you, connecting with you, and also noticing the people who do bring up tension for you. And consider that those are souls that you have a deep connection to, and that their role is your liberation. It's not the people that are nice and easy to be with, because they don't really show us. They don't show us our shadow. They don't show us what we need to work on or where we're stuck. But they are really important relationships, regardless. But it's the people where we might even consider them enemies. We kind of maybe even go into war with them in certain situations. These are the people where your enlightenment lies, and it's something to really consider this week and to call upon Ganesh in working with those relationships. Um, I would also be saying as well, there's going to be lots of hints as the moon is passing the south node in I think it's Tuesday, Wednesday this week. Um, Really pay attention. Listen to the little hints that you're getting, because the universe is almost telling you what is going to be happening in eclipse season next month. So you might want to like keep a journal and write what happens. Um, yeah, particularly, I would be saying, particularly today, um, and tomorrow, that's when the moon is going to be with the south node. Just notice, like, what does it feel like? There's something like you can feel it within you when like the universe is trying to send you a message. What is the repeated pattern in a relationship I'm carrying, in a union I have, or in an alliance I have? And maybe there's something a little bit grating about it, or something you know you need to shift, or something you kind of intuitively know is going to change in that energy. Write it down, because it's going to be giving you hints as to what is coming in September with eclipse season. There's some really nice collective energies. It's something I've been looking forward to this week as well, because Uranus, who represents unexpected events, technological breakthroughs, revolution, as well as like conflict in certain circumstances, will be perfectly sextile, which is in harmony with Neptune and Saturn. And that's really important because Neptune and Saturn, I've spoken about this the last couple of weeks, Neptune and Saturn together represent this like bubble around institutions, the military industrial complex, capitalism, and government. It's like this bubble that's being burst at the moment around how hierarchies and these institutional governances actually don't serve community. There's a lot of ancestral energy wrapped up in them. It's almost like the structures our ancestors put in place, and it might have been right for the consciousness of the time, but it has been perverted, and it's not living up to its ideal. And so that's something it feels like the universe is shifting and changing at the moment. And with Uranus being perfectly in harmony with these two, I would be saying pay attention this week for big collective unexpected events, particularly to do with the government, breakthroughs that happen in society, information being leaked. Like that already happens a lot, but almost like things look like they're heading this way, and then all of a sudden there's a really unexpected event and everything starts heading the other way. Also pay attention because there can be news about conflict, but I feel like what's going to happen with Uranus being in harmony with Saturn and Neptune is we're going to avoid some conflict that would have come to be. Particularly like I'm looking at the US and Israel when I say that, because they both are in their Uranus returns. Now, let's start with today's astrology. Venus today is entering Pushya Nakshatra, and Pushya is a part of Cancer. She's going to be in Pushya Nakshatra until the 4th of September. And this is a part of Cancer that's ruled by Saturn. And actually, this is important to note in Vedic astrology, Saturn and Venus, really good friends, really work together. They work as this energy of like, Venus pulls us into the world to be in relationship, to deal with money, to work through the tantric elements of life. And Saturn is there to help us play out the karma that is there and for us to reach a point where we have to let go of that desire. Like we actually realize that searching for love outside of us doesn't work. Searching for money, searching for power doesn't work. So these two work together in tandem to create liberation. Now, while Venus is in Pusha, it can bring forth responsibility in love. In relationships, there can be a call for a commitment or a change in an existing commitment. And it's really a period of you feeling nourished by the material realm. Though there's also an energy where it's like you might feel a little bit uncomfortable in that as well. So, enjoying good food, enjoying romance, loving the luxuries in life, but then also just notice because part of the beginning of this week with Venus in this position can actually mean that like there's a little bit of overindulgence that happens. So just be aware. You can find that there's a really strong calling to belong in your relationships or to feel like you don't belong. A desire to own something new because you're trying to fill that hole within. The best way to manage this period is to consider being a little bit more selfless in love. That's something that will be really rewarded by Venus. Consider others' feelings in what is going on, not just your own. And even just notice, like, yes, there can be a tendency to overindulge at the beginning of the week, but there will be, as we get through the week, a call almost to like rein that in, to really see that that overindulgent, that desire, it's not bringing happiness. It's actually just bringing more desire. Now, where Venus is in relation to the sun and the moon, I would be saying that you can find that this week and really until the 4th of September, there's a focus around indulgence in terms of like spending money, needing to accumulate material goods, and really, like I said before, really noticing how those things don't bring happiness. They don't really fill the God size hole. And you can also find that this spending or this desire to acquire, or even just the desires you've got in the material realm, are actually coming from a seed, like a karmic seed, which is really this sense that like you feel trapped in what's going on at the moment in your life. So you're trying to spend your way out of it or try and desire your way out of it. And there can be a sense that, like, because of the responsibilities you've got in life, because of the sense of being trapped, you're trying to spend in order to find freedom. Just notice that. I will also say as well that Pusha is about spirituality. So you can find that what you're really looking for is not a new relationship, not more love in an existing relationship, not more money and not more power. It's actually the soul longing for devotion, connection to the self, to really feel what is happening. And in a way, while Venus is in Pusha, like I said, to the 4th of September, it can be like you're exhausting the material realm, or we're letting the ego exhaust the material realm to ultimately come back here. Now, the sun in Maga, in Leo, will be in tension with Uranus, which is sitting in Kritika, and it will be opposing the asteroid Persephone. This can bring unexpected, informative news, even the call internally to kind of like purify, to help you see what's true, and even work through any negativity that you've been feeling, any kind of like heaviness you've been feeling about the transformation that you're in at the moment. This can particularly relate to work, how you're structuring your life, the responsibilities that you have to others. And at a collective level, this will really have to do with government and big institutions. Now, the gift of these two being in tension with each other is sometimes there might be an event that kind of like we don't want to happen, but it actually is there to destroy impurity. It's allowing something to change shape or form. It can also bring about a collective event, which allows something that doesn't serve the collective to die in a really unexpected way. So that's all today. And then finally, the moon. Like, gosh, today is a big day. The moon is sitting in Prava Falguni. Now, the Falgunis, this is in Leo, they all and kind of moving into Virgo tomorrow, but the Falgunis So Purva and Uttara Falguni, where the moon will be today and tomorrow, are all about relationship and commitment. And the moon today is going to be running past the south node, or K2, which I spoke about at the beginning. So there's a lot of energy today also around intimate relationships, partnerships, alliances, even like pay attention, like I said at the beginning, what messages are you getting around soul contracts that you've got? Because that's going to become bigger next month when the moon will be full next to the south node in Prova Falguni on the 7th. So use this, work ahead of time, work with the astrology, kind of like see like what's happening in relationships today and tomorrow, what's showing up for you, where do you need to work, where is there tension. It's a moon really about union, marriage, creation of new alliances, and the balancing of energy and relationships. It's a moon ruled by Venus, and Venus has just moved into Pushya. Like I said, even though the moon is in Leo, this part of Purva Falguni is ruled by Venus. So it can represent of a closing in the way you've been relating to another, the ending of an alliance, or hints about a change in an alliance that's taking place. Um, so that energy now, if we go to Monday the 25th, we still have the energy carrying on around relationships, but it will be slightly different. So first of all, Monday the 25th, Mercury shadow period ends finally. So if you've noticed, particularly from Friday last week until Monday, there's been a lot of recapping what was going on during Mercury retrograde, particularly if there were things you said that you really shouldn't have, messages that got to people that they shouldn't have actually heard that message, like it was really maybe not nice or a bit passive aggressive. As Mercury shadow comes to an end, it's almost like, okay, that is now being put to bed. We're moving on to the next lesson. And yes, if you haven't got everything you needed from that, there will be the opportunity to do it again when we have our next Mercury retrograde. But this is a period really of stepping forward. So if there has been tense energy in relationships, it's like stepping forward out of that, moving into a new chapter in how you talk, taking stock of what you have learnt during that period from the 18th of July around your voice, around your truth, around trusting your intuition. Um, this is like Mercury gives us a bit of a reprieve around communication, but there's a hard aspect coming up, because Mercury's going to be Gandanta on Saturday, so there's still going to be some tension coming up on Saturday, something that has the opportunity to be resolved or let go of on Saturday, but for the rest of the week, it's like talk, be heard, let others see what you've got to say. There can be a focus this week on conversations around money, how you express your values, particularly if you've been keeping them hidden. Um, Even sorting through information, particularly in the afternoon on Monday, really like sorting through and discerning information and how it should be organized. There can be discussions as well this week around contracts, new unions, that maybe was put off during Mercury retrograde because it didn't need Mercury retrograde messing with it. Now, the moon today is in Uttara Falguni, which means it's moving from Leo to Virgo. It continues to be a moon, so the mind, because the moon and the mind are one. It continues to be a mind on Monday that's all about contracts and unions. It's a moon all about prosperity in this unions. So, like, what can be created, what abundance can be created when two people come together. You can find that there's a big focus on finances, in those unions, on wealth, particularly if you share wealth with another, like through marriage or a business partnership. It can also be a day to consider what you need moving forward. So at work, particularly if like you need resources, you need a pay rise, you need more time, you need a new different type of technology. It's a great day to have that conversation. Or even if like you have a contract with work that needs to be discussed, this is a good time to do it. Now, the moon will still be with the south node for most of the day, so there's the potential to really feel inward. Like the south node really is introverted, it sends us in, and you might even catch a glimpse of the karma within your partnerships, both business and intimate, and really understanding that that is a reflection of this inside. Um, be really careful while the moon is in Uttara Falguni of just being too self-critical and too self-judgmental. It's kind of the nature of the moon in that part of the sky. It does that. And really notice where you're relying on a partner for answers instead of following your intuition. That's the advice for that. Now, Tuesday. Tuesday, the 26th, it's all about order and organization. And that's because Venus is going to be trine Saturn. And she's currently in a nakshatra ruled by Saturn. That said, she's going to be opposing Pluto. So Venus and Saturn, like I said, these two are on the same side. They're all about learning through the material realm. They're about commitment, about when they're working in harmony. It's about play, about romance, about enjoying life and learning through life, and even enjoying the restriction that life sometimes brings us, as well as the way in which it lets us play out our desires because it's going to teach us a lesson. So at the same time, Tuesday, and it will flow through for the rest of the week, but it will be very significant on Tuesday. It can feel like you're really being called to learn through life, listening to your intuition, trusting that what you're seeking outside of yourself, that ain't it. That ain't it. Like it's never going to fully satisfy. It satisfies for a moment, but never for a long period of time. What you're looking for is inside. So, this trine aspect between Venus and Saturn actually has the potential to help create some really beautiful organization around finances, around commitment to projects you might have in the material realm, around commitment in love and relationships. And it gives a seriousness to Venus. So, it's almost like the desires that she's got. It's not about buying something impulsively for the short term or chasing someone impulsively um out of lust. It's really this thing of like, what am I building? What am I building by doing these things? What do I want to commit to for the long term? Because Saturn kind of gets us to think about time. um and it can also, after kind of Monday, Tuesday, if there's been any overindulgence with Venus in Pushya, it can really curb that. So it can curb how you want to spend, really thinking about, yeah, what you actually want in this life, where you want to spend your energy, what really matters. Just notice Saturn, like even when he likes another planet, it's still going to bring up some heaviness. And that's because he's ensuring that we get the lesson and even a bit of restriction. So it might even be like where you would normally spend freely, all of a sudden it's like, oh, I can't do that. There feels like a restriction in that. Well, like look at that and feel, what's the lesson? What's the thing that I'm learning? Venus is moving into opposition with Pluto on Tuesday. So just there's a call, almost like it's time to do things differently. What's working hasn't been working. Now the moon is going to be in Hasta Nakshatra in Virgo, which means it's with Mars. So on Tuesday, it's really, again, it's a day of order, organization, action. Just be really aware of how you might be meddling. So we want to order without overthinking and over ordering and controlling. And it's about finding that balance, because what will happen on this day is if you get into that place of like meddling and needing to control everything, you're going to miss the opportunity that the universe is bringing you. There are blessings that will come on Tuesday, but you need to have your hands open to receive them. And that means just not having preferences for how you need things to be, being open to the fact that you might not have the right answer, that there might be something else. Now, Wednesday, like I said at the beginning, it's Ganesh Chaturthi, it's Ganesh's birthday. I spoke about most of that at the beginning. So it's very much a day of honoring the obstacles in your life, of seeing how they have taught you everything that you know, as seeing the way in which they're actually there for your liberation, and even gaining a glimpse at the fact that every obstacle is actually you. We're our own worst enemy. We are the obstacle, and like we're also our own savior, and it's through those obstacles we save ourselves. Now, on Wednesday, Venus will perfectly oppose Pluto. I mentioned that just before when we were talking about Tuesday's astrology. She'll also be sextile Uranus, trine Neptune and Saturn, in harmony with, oh, and also aligned with Magdalena. So I really feel like there's change coming with Ganesh Chaturthi. The energy can feel a little bit sticky. You can find that you get to see the shadows that you've been repressing around love, around money, around the desire to be seen. And there can be the opportunity to be just released from these binds, these things that have been binding you, these desires. It's a chance also to see where your spirituality, devotion, and beliefs are actually holding subconscious patterns that are reinforcing the current status, not actually bringing liberation. I kind of think of the idea of spiritual materialism when I think of this transit. It's like, where am I actually like calling something spiritual and it's actually really not? It's just the ego again. And so it's a day really of purging spiritual materialism, um, of finding, really understanding what it is to be in connection with the divine and understanding that everyone has that at every moment in time. Now, the moon is going to be in Chitra. It's moving from Virgo to Libra. So, this is a day about law, truth, what is dharmic and right, like right or ethical. And you can find that at a collective level, there's a big focus on stories of what is illegal or legal, particularly around children and collective groups of people. At a personal level, this is a day all about creation and foundations. And you can find that it's a day of creative thinking, of creating something that will last, even conversations that involve like foundational thinking about the future. Um, I really feel like because of the relationship with Venus, suppose Pluto on this day, there's something about receiving the gifts and blessings of the karma in this lifetime and also receiving great gains on this day with this moon. And even like helping you see that the obstacle you've been dealing with is actually the blessing. Now, Thursday, the 28th, some really nice weather with Jupiter. Jupiter rules Thursday, and he's going to be in perfect harmony with the black moon Lilith. Like, ooh, I love it. And so this is really about following what is true, not what is conventional. And following what is true means tuning out the external noise, going within and listening, that like inner compass that's like, something about this doesn't feel right. Like I know everyone's agreeing with what, say, the news is saying or what this particular leader is saying, but within me, there's something that suspects that this is not ethical, that this is not dharmic. It's about following that. It's a really great and lucky day, one of wisdom, of revitalization and renewal, really about finding your truth, about being honest, about taking the unconventional path, about doing what is right, not what everyone else is doing. And it can also be a deeply spiritual day as Jupiter will be sitting with the asteroid Parvati. So it's about devotion, about honoring the God in everything. It doesn't mean you have to agree with what other people are doing, but honoring the God in everything. Now, the moon is in Swati in Libra, and it's going to be sitting with Hecate, and it's also sitting with the black moon Lilith, which means that the moon is going to be in harmony with Jupiter. It's perfect Jupiter day, perfect Thursday. So there can be innate understanding of that truth that Jupiter is stirring up, prophetic dreams, even feeling like you're at a crossroads in your life, in kind of that crossroads of detaching yourself so much from what the mainstream is doing. And it can be a call for you to find a new way forward, even in partnerships, because that's still a big theme, to bring the unconscious to life, even particularly within yourself. Now, with this moon, you have a choice. You're really at a crossroads on Thursday. You can choose to repeat a cycle, to follow what you've always done, particularly if there's childhood programming still playing out or energy around romantic partners that seems to be repeating. Or you can do something new. You can take a new path that will feel uncomfortable, that will take you away from what everyone else is doing, that will kind of put you on the outskirts, which is all, yeah, it's about you making that choice. You can find today that there's because Swati is ruled by Vayu, which is the wind. There can be a restlessness, a feeling of being scattered, of windy, of just being all up in your head as you're thinking about these crossroads. And just know, like sometimes it's fine just to stand at the crossroads. You don't have to make a decision yet. Acknowledging that it's time for a change, and even not knowing what that steps forward. And you might want to invoke Ganesh for that. So you can also find today that words can scatter, that it's a day where you're called to travel, to move, to be in motion, and that you actually have a lot of influence on other people with the conversations that you have, even if you don't recognize it. Now, Friday, the 29th of August, Uranus is going to have that sextile with Neptune I mentioned at the beginning. I have been waiting for this transit because it's going to be a big transit next year as well. And it feels like this is going to be a day, Friday, something highly unexpected will happen, which helps purify the collective energy. It can bring fire, it can bring an internal fire, which will help change what is happening. It's like the destruction of the government that we're witnessing. This will be a formative part of that. The destruction of kind of capitalism that we're witnessing, this will be a formative part of that. You can even find that it brings an end to something within you. Um, that things get scattered and transformed through unexpected events. And like the bubble bursting around the idealism you've been holding around government, around institutional control, around what certain countries are doing. And the moon will still be in Swati. In Australia, it will be in Swati until 4 p.m. It will then move into Vishaka, so it's moving from Libra to Scorpio. In Europe and the US, where you will pretty much start the day with the moon in Vishaka. So really on Friday, it's a day where it can feel in Australia in particular, and Asia and India, that there's and New Zealand, there's a carryover from the energy of Thursday, that the mind is still a little bit scattered. And then there's a shift that happens. And really, as the moon moves into Vishaka, it can bring lightning, it can bring insight, it can bring the ability to really make concerted effort to go after what you wanted, particularly if Thursday and Friday, it just feels like you're at a crossroads. Like, I don't know, I'm not quite sure, and I'm thinking through all the possibilities. As the afternoon on Friday comes, and as the day on Friday comes in Europe and the US, it's like, okay, no, this is the way forward. Um, and on Saturday, now Saturday's a little bit tricky. I would just be saying, like, be very careful with conversations, because Mercury is going to be Gandanta. It's moving out of Cancer. So it's in Ashleisha and Cancer, the claw of the crab, and it's moving into Marga in Leo, which is where the sun is. And Marga is like the heart of the Leo constellation. Now, in Eastern Australian Eastern Standard Time. This Mercury Gandanta will start at 10:50 a.m. on Saturday, and it will run until 6 a.m. on Sunday. And so it will be basically for Saturday. On Saturday, you might feel some of it on Friday evening in the US and Europe. Um, it really can bring forth Saturday like very tense conversations, bringing up the poisons you haven't dealt with from your childhood, the relationship you fought with your father and the patriarchy. And it can even be a fallout of what's happened on Friday, that unexpected news, that unexpected need to change. There can be profound spiritual understanding that comes from that. And as Mercury enters Maga, which is that Leo energy, it will enter on Saturday evening at 9:15 p.m. in Australian Eastern Standard Time, which will be the morning, mid-morning, um, in on Saturday in the US. Um, it really is about getting aware of ancestral roots. Really, like, where are my continuing conversations or ways of speaking that my ancestors had that just don't serve? Um, and I want to say, like, the opportunity with Mercury being gone down to, it represents the end of a cycle. So it's like, what do you need to clear up? And it can still be stuff that's lingering from Mercury retrograde, even though we're out of that shadow phase. But it's like, what do you need to clear up? What do you need to come forth and be honest with? Maybe you need to apologize for something that you said that you didn't mean to, that's been really affecting a relationship. And the moon on Saturday is going to be in Scorpio. It will be in Vishaka, and then it'll be moving to Anurata. So in Scorpio the entire time. Australian Eastern Standard Time, it will move into Anurata at 7 p.m. But as it's in Scorpio, it's a day of like really feeling deeply. It's going to really match the Mercury Gandanta energy. It can really be tense, transformative, deeply spiritual, but also it's really about trusting your intuition, trusting what other people are showing you about yourself. Um, and it can also be, particularly towards Saturday evening, almost like a returning to the balance in relationships, particularly if things have felt off. There can be a renewed sense of compassion, and really understanding the greater flow of the universe. It's like something can be healed at that time. So that's this week's astrology. Um, Two things. First, join for Ganesh Chaturthi with Siddhi Shakti and myself if you feel called, if you want to learn how to work with that mantra and embrace it for this week as a part of your practice. And the second thing is the eclipse season. The Unlock the Eclipse portal workshops, which will be for both the eclipses, will be live probably mid this week. And finally, if you want to go deeper, I'm always around for a one-on-one reading. I'm going to be offline during September. I'm traveling, but I'll be back October and through to the rest of the year. So I'm wishing you a wonderful week.